Hello, everyone. Are you all having a great summit? Woo! Well, thanks for choosing to come to this session. I'm here to introduce Being Intentional About Teaming with Bernie Ferguson. Bernie is an R&D team coach here at Atlassian and also notably helped pioneer the team playbook. So he will share lots of insights with you. He's also has 15 years of experience working in agile teams and has many a battle scar and story to share. So if you see him roaming the halls later, ask him about that. Okay, let's go ahead and bring up Bernie.
Woo. Okay, thank you very much for having me today. Good to see everyone coming in. Please fill the front seats. Today, I want you to make an important decision, right? And all good decisions are better done in pairs, right? So what I want you to do is find a partner, and everybody please stand up. Hit your feet, stand up. All right, and in your pairs, good, this is happening. All right, in your pairs, I want you to decide who is number A and who is number B. You A? You're going to be B? B? All right, A? B, A, all right. All right, thank you. So now you've got A and B. I want you to all face each other, and I want you to hold each other's hands like this. That's it. All right. Person A, can you repeat after me? So person A, I want you to repeat after me. Do it with a bit of emotion. I want some emotion. You've got to act this, okay? We're going to do it, right? You've got to get involved. Person A, I want you to say, I love you. You complete me. I love you. You complete me. Good. Okay, person B, I want you to say, repeat after me, shut up. Shut up. You had me at hello. Oh, sorry. These are the wrong notes. That's from when I go to the marriage counsellor next week. Yeah, keep holding hands. I'll try and get this one right, okay? I am generally sorry. That was I should look at my speaker notes like this. Okay, we'll try again. All right, person A, repeat after me. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy. Sorry, I got it wrong again. That's okay. Keep holding hands. Like, I do want you to work together over the next 45 minutes as a partner in pairs. So what we'll do is do a different exercise. I probably should use my speaker notes, right? Yeah, okay. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to take 2 minutes. Come on, guys, hold hands, come on. Don't be shy. Everybody else is. You're letting the team down, come on. All right, so I want you to think about your partner. I want you to look into their eyes, and I want you to guess what is your partner's favorite hobby or pastime. I want you to guess. And then I want you to also guess what is their ideal job in the next kind of 2 to 3 years. So 2 to 3 years from now, what would their ideal job be? So take a little time, think about it, and then I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes to share. Okay? All right, go. Do you want to join at 3? What? Do you want to join with 3?
No, just watch.
Yeah, it's good. How'd you go?
Do I have to guess or just look in the eyes?
You got to guess.
Okay.
What's your favorite hobby?
Guess?
Yeah. How'd you guys go? Did you get it right?
With me, it wasn't too far off.
What was the hobby?
I said that she spent a lot of time with her family.
Yeah.
I love to travel. And then that her job would be consulting.
Ooh, consulting. You two look like a perfect couple. Do you know each other? No? Did you guess the right job? What did you guess?
Not yet. We are just on hobbies. Yeah,
Hobbies. Okay, cool. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, I'm going to give you a 30-second warning. 30-second warning. Try to wrap it up. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Wrap it up. Did you get it right? You can hold hands all day if you like. Yeah. It's the dry Vegas air, right? It's so dry here. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you everybody. I'll ask you to sit down, please. All right, well done. All right, thank you. So did anyone guess their partner's hobby correctly? It's just show of hands. Very good. You can keep holding hands as long as you like. Yeah. These two guys will be at like 3 a.m. at Bash. They're still holding hands. Feel free. All right, great. Thank you. Now we know each other a little better, and we're working in pairs. You're going to keep working in those pairs for the next 45 minutes. And what I want you to do with your partner in a month from now is to check in with them. And we'll get to that because we remember we have an important decision to make, right? All right, so let's change gears a little bit. I'm going to paint a scene for you. And instead of telling you a story today, because you know storytelling's all in vogue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to create your own story and to create 2 key characters, okay? Right? So let me paint the scene, okay? So this is the scene. You're in a boardroom and you're on a project team. Things aren't going well for your project. You've missed some milestones or things that are off track. Has anyone been on a project that has been off track? Yeah? If you put your hand down, if you don't have your hand up now, I just ask you to leave. No, stay. But it happens all the time, right? You've missed milestones. There's, your stakeholders have called you in kind of like for a please explain, okay? So this is the scene. You're going to walk into this room with your project team, okay? So you can think about the project team you're working on just now, or you could think about just hypothetically, but I want you to paint a picture of 2 key characters in this scene. So could everybody, to do this fully, could you please close your eyes? This is a visualization exercise, so please close your eyes. All right, so I want you to create 2 characters in this scene. The first character you're going to create is a hero of your story. This is the person that you love to work with, that you really enjoy with them, you have a high sense of trust with them. And I want you to think about this person. Like, what are they wearing? What is their behaviors like? What is the type of things that they are saying? So take some time to paint the picture of this hero in your story. All right, so now you've got a hero in your mind and created in this story. Now the opposite happens. The villain walks into the room and guess what? That villain is late. So typical. They're always late, right? So the villain comes in. This is like your toxic teammate or like a bad boss, someone that you don't like working with. Think about them as they walk into the room, how they derail the meeting, disrupt the meeting. This is a high-pressure situation, right? Your project's off track. And they've come in and you were going to take it from bad to worse. What are the things that the villain of your story is saying? And what are the things, what are the type of behaviors and body language this person has? Okay. With the 2 pictures or 2 characters painted in your mind, can you please open your eyes? Excellent. All right. So, quick audience engagement. I need some help from you all. Can you yell out to me the hero in your story? Some of the characteristics of the hero or how the hero makes you feel? Safe? Calm? I heard calm. Being listened to? Sorry? Learns quickly. Yeah, that's a new one. Engaging? Lovely. Authoritative. Interesting. Honest, direct, honest. Well done, excellent. Thank you for that. If you keep going, the rest of my presentation becomes, no. What about the villain? What about the villain? How does the villain, like what are the characteristics of the villain and how does the villain make you feel? Antagonistic, ego, pessimistic, aggressive. Ooh, you don't want to be there. No. Gaslighting. Can you explain to me what gaslighting is? A new term for me?
So for me, it's when they said something in the past and then they pretty much do a 180 on it and say,
Oh.
and then they try to convince you that they never said that in the first place and that you're wrong.
Okay. So they sort of go back, inconsistent as well, right? Yeah, okay, brilliant. All right, so I actually run this exercise with my daughter, okay? This is what she came up with. So it's probably a little bit difficult being in my family at times, but anyway. So my daughter's 5 years old, and I said to her, Daddy's going over to Las Vegas, he's doing a presentation. I'm going to talk about a good person and a bad person. Can you draw a picture for me? And so she did. The good person is the girl on the left. She has her arms open, she has her hair down. She's sitting close to the boardroom, notice that? And she is engaging in a lot of the things that we've mentioned before. And the person on the right is the villain of her story. Oh, grumpy old man, he's walking away, and that thing that this grumpy old man is holding is a cane, walking stick, right? So I thought that was kind of cute, right? But even for a 5-year-old, some of these sort of behaviors and actions is pretty intuitive, right? We know this already, but yet in the cut and the thrust of everyday work, we can tend to forget this. We can tend to fall into the villain sometimes, and we're all worked in places where we've seen villains and we've sort of seen those heroes in action. So I think it's really important that we take some time to double down and really think about heroes and villains within the workplace and in the teams that we work in. So this slide is going to talk to a little bit about what we see, the hero characteristics and some of the things that you've mentioned, and then on the other side, some of the villain characteristics as well. So at Atlassian, my job is an R&D team coach. I work with there's product teams are all over the globe. There's just under 2,000 people in our product teams when we think about research and development. And I work with those teams to help them to improve the way they work. So as a coach, my key currency that I work with is asking questions, and trying to listen with empathy. They're the two things that will really help your teams to enable them and to really challenge them. Instead of having the answer and being a dominant voice in the room, I can spend more time in that hero category as opposed to spending more time in the villain category. I also, as a coach, really love the opportunity around challenging the outcome. Sometimes managers, particularly senior leaders, really struggle to know when to engage. And they often engage in the process, like managing the process. Like, this is how it has to be done. Follow this process, do that, do that, do that. And sometimes we see that reinforcing of particular processes which aren't custom fit for the team and their constraints and also their customer. But instead, by challenging the why, like why are we doing this? How are we going to measure success? All those type of things, as opposed to how you're going to do it, you can have a greater impact. Now, anyone who would say would be good at giving and receiving feedback? Show of hands? Not that many. It's not a leading question. All right, I think giving and receiving meaningful feedback is such an important part of playing that hero role. So like some of you mentioned before, is this good feedback? I'm just going to role play a scenario. Hey, great job in that meeting today. You did awesome. No? It's nice? Yeah. Not meaningful? Any reason why it's not good feedback? Pretty generic, isn't it? And actually, I'm going to go through some of my strengths and weaknesses on this and to share with you. But this is an area that I really struggle with. I was that type of coach, that type of manager. I was like, yeah, great job, awesome, high five in the walkway. And then someone said to me that, Bernie, that doesn't really help me. I don't know why I did well. So instead of working on that, I took some time. Basically, what I was doing is providing lip service, good lip service, but not all that helpful. It's like, hey, great work in that meeting yesterday. You were able to set it up, clear objectives, kept the conversation flowing. You wrapped up with clear actions and owners, and well done to you. It was an hour meeting. We finished 5 minutes early, got me to my next meeting on time, and I actually got a coffee in, so high five. That's much better. That is feedback, right? And at the same time, giving negative feedback can be sometimes, hey, I want to give you some feedback, right? I've not for a long time been in this situation, but I did have a situation once. I was like, hey, I'm going to give you some feedback, and then whack. It's like all this negativity under the guise of positive feedback. It's like, oh, you could have done that better. This isn't great. So I just felt demoralized, right? So that manager that I was working with that time was probably spending more time in that sort of villain stage. The other thing that I think is really important around this characteristic of hero and being a hero kind of leader is ensure simplicity, right? There's a good quote that managers create complexity and leaders create simplicity. I think when we're working with teams and trying to get through the emotion of everything that's going on, bringing it down to the heart of what's happening, and then moving forward with that sense of simplicity and reassurance is really important. You mentioned before, like moonlighting, which is a term which was new to me, but that inconsistency really just drives confusion. So you want to stay consistent and keep being there. Now, the next one I've got on this slide is around a role model. So this is probably one of the areas where leaders can tend to get things really wrong. They can intend to say, we should be like this, or have good work-life balance and all those sort of things, but then they might not do that themselves. And then that creates a ripple effect for the team. So in particularly stressful situations, really trying your best to be that role model is super important. And at Atlassian, we've had a thing called the Atlassian Team Playbook since 2016. I'm going to talk through that to you in a little bit towards the back end of this presentation. But one of the things that we did within the Team Playbook is really focus on sort of like task-orientated activities. Oh, you wanted to do a problem definition. There's a task activity to do with that. But what we were missing is this sense of behavioral and personal connections. So much research has come out over the last 2 to 3 years talking about the importance of personal connections and building personal connections. That sense of psychological safety, that sense of being, in bringing and embracing that cognitive diversity that a team can have is all built through building out personal connections. So I went through an exercise to put this together, and then I asked my team, hey team, I want you to rate me. Bernie, the coach, tell me 2 things on this list on the hero side, because I want to be playing more on the hero side than in the villain side, right? Tell me 2 things you think I do well, and tell me 2 things you think I don't do well and I need to improve. So the 2 things that came out, which was doing well, is like, Bernie, well done, you ask good questions, and you're really good at building strong personal relationships. You have a great sense in terms of your emotional intelligence and really building the connection on team. Well done to you. Right? And I'm like, I'm pretty jazzed by this. I'm like, that's awesome. Write that down. Next performance review, here it comes. And then I asked, I'm here for 360 feedback. I want to improve all the way around. Where can I improve? So the meaningful feedback was too many high fives type moments. And what I realized that as a coach, I'm not here to be a cheerleader, wave the pom-poms and jump and do acrobatic stuff in the air. I'm not flexible enough for that anyway. But one of the things that I need to do is really be focused and structured in the way that I give feedback. We heard yesterday from Sean about showing gratitude. And hopefully you sent your email out to someone that you sent it to. I sent it to a colleague yesterday. The email that I'm going to send out today will be to my mum. Isn't that sweet? So the one that I'm just going to say, hey mum, I love you, that's probably not enough. I've got to go a little bit further and to say why. And the other thing which was really interesting for me, my personal experience, was when I got feedback, my response was super defensive. Crazy defensive. I'm like, no, cross my arms like this, that's not true. So I was like, try to work on that. How can I work on that? How can I be better at getting feedback? Because I thought that the feedback meant that I was doing things badly, but it wasn't. It was like, you're not doing too bad, but you can improve. We can all improve. So I did this little exercise, which I did was record all of the sessions that I would have in a week, the sessions that I was running, and then I'd watch them on the bus, right? So you can imagine it, right? You get on the bus, there's this guy sitting there with an Atlassian shirt on, sitting there with his little iPods in, watching himself on his phone. They'd probably like gone home to their parents that I sat on the bus next to this massive narcissist today. Oh my God. But it was really, really helpful just to see myself under the normal duration of how I work. So it was super valuable for me to get a view on like when I do get feedback, how I actually react. Like these body language cues that I didn't even realize I'm doing because they're subconscious. So just by watching myself and observing myself, it was a great way for me to try to really improve the way that I work, right? All right. So I remembered that you've partnered up, you've told each other that there's a lot of love in the room now, okay, yeah? So what I want you to do is I want you to take another 2 minutes and I want you to share with your partner What are the things, particularly from that hero column, what are 2 things that you think you do really well? And what are 2 things that you think you can improve? Okay? So share with your partner. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and I want you to have that conversation. Okay? All right, 2 minutes starts now. Hey, Kindle, that clock up there, that's a countdown clock, right?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. Is that the full 40 minutes?
Yes. That's 40 to 0.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I got through the rest pretty quick. Yeah. All right. What'd you come up with?
I know you.
Yeah. What is your strengths and weaknesses? Yeah?
I didn't get
Oh,
a
yeah.
partner, so that was my
Sorry. So the focus on the where am I?
villain.
Yeah. So instead of like, hey Bernie, like knowing a little bit about each other, it's like, what are you doing? Where is it up to? Where's the status of it? Like that. So yeah. So instead of like, to be honest, if you got good stuff, you just tell the outcome and let them figure it out. But if focusing on the task is like, oh, you haven't done your status report, or you didn't do that thing, or where's it up? You're really on at the wrong level. Okay, thank you very much. So hopefully you can continue that conversation through the rest of the summit. And hopefully, actually just a show of hands, who had exactly the same 2 strengths and weaknesses as their partner? Pretty much, maybe 1 or 2, so that's interesting. So I kind of mentioned before, like with my version of giving feedback, even though I was trying to do the right thing, that I was actually like having this like negative impact. Like I was trying to do the right thing, I was trying to give feedback, but I was having a negative impact, and that can happen. And what I would call that is like this accidental villain that creeps into your daily work, right? So even though you're trying to do that stuff in the hero side, you end up slipping into the villain side just by virtue of not being, it's a complete accident. Like if I asked you, like, what would you think was your accidents? Does anyone know how they accidentally have that diminishing impact on their team? Anyone think they do that? Okay, maybe a few. It's hard to know when an accident's about to happen, right? So these are the type of things that you can only really, only by seeking feedback that you can get that information. I wouldn't have been able to put those 2 positives and 2 negatives up there without asking for feedback. So that's one thing I definitely want you to try and encourage. So we've talked a little bit about heroes, we've talked a little bit about villains, and we talked about how we can improve the way we work personally. So I want you to think like, hey Bernie, what's this got to do with teams? And what's this got to do with the future of work? Well, we've done a lot of research on teams at Atlassian, and we've found that people are more motivated by the team that they work with directly, as opposed to potentially their product area, their department, or even their organization. We spend so much time with the people that we work with every day that these qualities, like these strengths and weaknesses that we have, it's really on us. It's all on all of you to really try to find ways to improve so that you can help your team improve, right? Often in the past, you'd probably look to the boss or the boss's boss or someone more senior to help your team improve. What I want you to do as you continue into your careers and like work through this future of work idea is I want you to take that leadership on yourself. As you saw before, like there's a lot of differences in the room already on the type of strengths and weaknesses that we had. And that's a really good highlight, just how personal leadership is, as opposed to positional. You don't have to be high in the org chart to drive and help your team improve. So that's the key message that I want to get across today. You've recognized some of your strengths and weaknesses, and you've got ideas on how you can improve. Take that opportunity. That's the decision that I want you to make. How are you going to take that opportunity to improve yourself so that you can improve your team? Because if you can improve your team, you'll have a better working relationship, and then you're going to have much more happiness and enjoyment at work. So Interestingly enough, as I mentioned before, our research backs this up. But it sort of gives you a question, like, so you sort of define the problem. What do we do next, right? So what I've decided to do is take you through a model that I use as a coach to help teams to improve in the way they work. And it's going to call on a couple of things using this model. Is anyone familiar with the Tuchman Model? Yeah? Form, storm, norm, perform. Yeah, I use this a lot as a coach because it's really simple. It's really simple to describe and to sort of walk teams through it. Just be careful of when you see different models and people like sort of bringing things into you. If they're talking a lot about the model and the framework and the methodology or whatever, that's kind of interesting, but it doesn't get to the heart of the problem for you and your team, right? You use this as a context switching to get into how you actually improve. That's the discussion. That's the real heart of the issue that you want to talk about. So I'm going to step through these stages from form, storm, norm, perform. I'm going to talk about some of those like hero and villain kind of attributes. And then what I'm going to do is give you some practical activities that you can do along the way. Okay? And for me, I've tried to make it into words that make sense to me. So in forming, this is kind of like, the team coming together. Maybe it's a new initiative. You've started, someone new joins the team. It's interesting, like I ask teams a lot, it's like, what stage are you at? And they'll be like, oh, we're in storming. And I was like, but didn't you have a new starter on Monday? You're probably back at forming, right? It really does go back that quickly. But this is kind of where we're at. I often find this part of a team is like fun, it's curious, you come together for the first time, it's kind of exciting. But what you can do to really be that hero leader in this thing is to kind of get the team on the same page. We talked before around that, remember that characteristic of the hero leader right at the bottom, like building personal connections? That is so important when a team first comes together. Dedicate time and be deliberate. Be intentional about building those personal connections at this stage of your team, right? The more that you know about each other, the more that you will have better sense of connection and the more that you're likely to collaborate and work more effectively together. I did this recently with a team that was doing through an offsite. We had an offsite in Sydney. And I said, like, what's your hopes and fears for 2019? Personal and like your personal ones and your career ones. Just that exercise took I said it as pre-work. In the meeting, it took us 15 minutes to discuss that. And we have a much better bond within the team about like what are some of the things that we're trying to do outside of work and also inside of work, and we can help each other. That was a really great way of building those personal connections. The other one, and at this stage, it's so important to get like a really clear, succinct pitch of why your team exists. This is going to really help you through the next phase, storming. So if you can give a quick, succinct pitch, hi, this is my team, this is what we're all about, this is our customer, and this is how we intend to deliver business value or customer value, that will really help. So this stage is fun, it's exciting, and it then moves into storming. And storming, I would say, is probably the hardest. This is the stage where, you're trying to thrash. A lot of the times, two people are trying to do one task, and then two people think that the other person's doing that thing, and no one does it, drops the ball, right? There's a lot of thrashing and a lot of misalignment at this stage. There'd be a lot of assumptions at this stage. So one of the things that I think is really important at this stage of a team's development is to think about what are the roles and responsibilities on your team? Who is doing what, right? There's a play at the Atlassian team playbook called Roles and Responsibilities. Running that play at this stage is so important so everyone is on the same page and they start to get to know who's doing what. As an extension of that, Daisy, has anyone heard of Daisy before? Yeah. Good, that's about half the room. Daisy is a framework that you can use around decision making. Who is the driver for key decisions? Who is the approver? Really important to be clear on who is your single approver. And who is contributing to this discussion? And who just needs to be informed? I think as Atlassian, as we've grown, we've had to put more and more people into the informed bucket because we're making so many more decisions and not everyone can be around it because it slows us down, right? So being really clear at this stage, that storming phase, we've got these major decisions to make over the course of this project or on this team, and these are the people we want to contribute, and these are the dates that we want the decisions by, and everyone else is informed. Shout out if you want to be a contributor, but ultimately we're going to inform you so that we can move quickly. That's a really important start of what you can do here. From a hero and villain perspective, at this stage, the hero is going to try to drive simplicity. Keep things moving, keep it clear, keep it moving. A villain is probably going to try and make it a little bit more confusing at this stage. But once you get through storming, the next phase is norming, and this is actually nice. The left hand starts to know what the right hand is doing. You can be reassuring. You're actually probably starting to deliver some value to your customer or to the business at this stage, which is exciting. Once you start to get that velocity up and running, it's a good time to be on the team. So this is when you can sort of like continue to build up and continue to validate your ideas. One of the greatest plays that the Atlassian team playbook has is this concept of sparring. It's the idea where you share an idea and you get feedback from your colleagues or peers really early. And by doing that, you can build better ideas out. Sparring is a really good thing to do, particularly as you get to that kind of norming phase, where you essentially know who's doing what, and then you can call on each other's strengths and weaknesses. You've got a good idea of their personal connections, remember, from forming, and then you can really leverage that diversity within your team to challenge the best outcomes possible for your customer. And then the last phase is when is obviously performing, and everyone wants to be here. So you're nailing it, velocity's high, you're delivering to customers. One thing I would say, and when this Tuchman model was introduced in 1965, it's kind of represented as a linear progression through to these stages, right? Like you can't go from form to perform. You kind of have to go through that group development phase. But if you're in this phase here, what I want you to do is be like innovative, be creative, use disruptive brainstorming as a way to like, how could we do this better? And challenge yourselves to level up. And the most important thing that I want you to do at this phase is don't be selfish. If you're on a team who's performing, find ways to share that with the rest of your organization. That's the whole reason why we put the playbook together. The Atlassian team playbook is going to different teams that were in this performing phase and like, how do you go about X, Y, Z? I want to share that with other parts of Atlassian. And when we did that, then we was like, this is really awesome, this is really interesting, let's just make it publicly available on the website so that all our customers can use access to this content as well. And that's essentially how we built out the playbook. So in here, perform, create new plays, create new activities, new ways of working, kind of be innovative and try to continue to build the performance of your team. So, form, storm, norm, perform, right? Hands up if you know where your team is at. Okay? Now that you've got a good idea of that, what would you do next? Would you go and talk to your team and say, hey, we're forming, we're going to do this plays that Bernie was talking about at Summit? Yeah? Couple of nods, couple of no's. Remember the villain had the answer and the hero asked the question? Nobody likes someone who's like, I'll just be honest, like if you've been to a conference and you come back with the answer, you're probably in the villain column, right? So, good little exercise to do is ask the team, right? Be the hero leader, ask the team. This exercise I did like 2 weeks ago, and just put the form, storm, norm, perform, quick post-it note. If you think we're forming, write number 1 down. If you think you're storming, put number 2 down. If you think you're norm 3, 4 for performing, right? And then just reveal at the same time. Pop them on the board. It's like, oh, I actually put us, like when I put this one up, I was informing. I was like, oh yeah, we've just had a new team member. I feel as though we're just starting again. And then someone else was like, oh, actually, I thought we were down there, we were in the norm stage. And then you have a really good conversation on where that team is at. And then from the engaged team, then you can think about how do you move that action forward, okay? Pin the tail on the Tuchman. I just made that up. I don't know. But literally, it's a fun little exercise. If you could even incorporate that into an existing ritual. Like, say you've got a weekly project team meeting, just pop that in. I guarantee you it'll take not much longer than 15 minutes. And it's a really great way to engage your team and to take on that hero leadership sort of style. I touched on this a little bit before, but the progress of a team in terms of performance isn't linear. So you might go from form, storm, norm, perform, and then go straight back to forming, or you might go from forming to storming and then back to form. It's complex teams and they move around all the time. The one point on this model is that you do need to go through those phases to get to performing, but you could get to performing and go straight back to storming or forming. It can change around a little bit. Okay? So I've introduced this form, storm, norm, perform model, and then a couple of key practices that underpin it. The other thing that I wanted to share with you today, and we've got some packs available, and also if you visit us on the Enterprise Solutions Hub, you'll be able to see the Team Playbook booth, and you'll be able to come and check us out. We'll be there this afternoon and all of day tomorrow, is what we call our Atlassian Team Health Monitor. So at Atlassian, what we did is we went to all these teams and we said, how are you performing? What are the things you're doing well? What are those kind of hero activities that you do as a team to solve particular problems? And when we did that analysis, we found that certain teams have certain attributes in common when they're high performing. And then what we did is create this health monitor tool, which is a simple way to introspectively assess the performance of your team against 8 key attributes, and then continue that conversation on how you can improve and areas that you want to improve. As a matter of fact, I did mention that there's a couple of kits around, so there's a box at the back if there's any available. If not, come and join us on the booth. And we'll be able to talk a little bit more about team health and how to improve the effectiveness of your team. All right, I've got one more activity for you. You ready? Yep. I want you to all stand up with your partner, all right? And I want you to get a selfie, and I want you to get a selfie with this URL in the background, or just take a photo of this. Feel free. Yeah, 5 minutes. Awesome. These guys are still holding hands. How awesome. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a bit. So grab a seat. Thank you for taking a selfie. Hopefully you can share that URL together. You can visit the team playbook. Now that you're in partners, what I really want you to do is check in with each other a month from now. So as you're leaving today, make sure you take a photo of each other's card, your lanyard, or exchange emails. Do it through the Summit Live app. And then I want you to sort of say, what are the things that I'm going to do to be a hero leader? Like you talked about your strengths and weaknesses, right? And then I want you to check in a month from now with your partner and say, how'd you go after Summit? How'd you go putting that into action? And then I want you to share that. So remember when we started today, we had this idea of making a decision. You're going to look to others around your organization, particularly your boss or your boss's boss, to help you improve the performance of your team? Or are you going to be intentional about teaming? Hopefully you've been able to make the decision today to be deliberate about teaming, and then you can go and take those activities back to your team to help improve the way that your teams work. Thank you.